You so this is the first time that we're doing a live call in person, but not in the same room. Because if we were in the same room, you would hear us both. So we're at the same house. Those are my children behind Andrew. He's on my couch. He's very comfortable.
It is.
Hello, Sean Maggard. How are you? Thanks for being here. I think, well, thanks for coming down here. I don't know why you're here. You don't have to tell me why you're here, but why you're here.
Yeah, I planned this trip a couple weeks ago. So I live in the Seattle area. I
Yeah.
have some friends who have a place in Santa Rosa,
hmm
the Sonoma area. I don't know how much people know about the Northern California geography. I'm learning more about it
It's
as I've been
wine country.
visiting.
It's a wine country area, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
A less snobby wine country.
Yeah, it's really nice up there. It's really pretty and I don't know, bucolic and serene. And I just needed to get away for a couple of days.
It rains
So
in
I reached
Seattle.
out.
Did you know that?
It it does. It's true. I was aware of that. I've been there for almost 6 years now, and
And you're
I've
aware.
experienced
Okay.
some of the rain. Yes.
So you needed to
Um,
come down here. All right.
yeah. It just needed to get away for a couple of days. So I reached out to a friend who's got this place in Santa Rosa, and he's like, "Yeah, my home is always welcome to you. If you need a place to get away, a little bit of a respite, just come on down. It's a quick and easy flight. It's like 2 hours direct from Seattle. Santa Rosa has a tiny little airport, Charlie Brown Airport. It's super
hmm
cute. Um,
Yeah, George Schultz is a big deal in Santa Rosa,
hmm
where the
so yeah, so I
Peanuts
hopped down.
Museum is.
Yeah, so I hopped down, and as it turns out, we had scheduled this recording a couple of weeks ago as well.
Mhm.
Uh, I came down to San Francisco last night. A friend there hosts a monthly game night. Uh, so I kind of coordinated a visit around that as well. Uh, we drove down. A friend of mine who I'm staying with and I spent the night at her place in the Castro. Hung out, met some really interesting people, played some games, and then, as it turns out, I was like, well, where you are here in San Rafael is kind of like halfway on our way back to Santa Rosa. So, like, why don't I just stop on the way back and we can see each other and do this sort of in person?
We are still doing it sort of in person. Like I
Yeah.
feel like you're there, even though you're not here. I hear birds chirping. It's really nice. It's much nicer than normal. I feel more relaxed because a human is here. And
Good.
when I talked to John Sellon earlier today, the drama was high.
Oh,
No, no. Do you go to GDC? Like the one thing I was thinking was like, do you go to GDC? And then I was thinking, oh, video games aren't real games, which was a joke, but a good
mm,
one. Do you go to look at your face? Do you
yeah.
go to GDC?
I've never been to GDC before.
Really?
Yeah, it it's my understanding that there isn't as much of a board game sort of presence and rationale for being there. It's much more focused
Yeah.
on digital. And since my
Mhm.
whole career in games has been in the analog sort of meat space, so to speak, working on card games and board games, that I've never really felt a strong need to attend. I also hear that it's particularly expensive. Uh,
I've never paid to go, so I couldn't
okay.
tell you. But it is like there is a spectrum of people who love it. There are friends of mine who went for 10 years and like they volunteered and it was a social community and they saw that social community bloom and they're wonderful people and I adore them. And that's not been my experience. I did get to see Will Wright give a speech once, and that was really great. Like he was an awesome presenter. He's awesome game maker,
Mhm.
inspirational. That was the highlight of my GDC experience. Interestingly, like playing other people's board games is like the number two probably. Like Paul Sotosanti, if you remember that guy,
Yeah, yeah.
he had a board game about cities, and like there was a whole like video game makers who like making board games too kind of set of people, and so
Mhm.
those. those were the people I naturally kind of gravitated towards, but,
Right. Well,
it was
and,
interesting. Yeah.
um, in Wizards and Magic has, kind of established a pretty consistent presence at GDC over the
Mhm,
years too, right? They've had people
mm,
like
yeah.
Mark Rosewater come down, and I know, like, our mutual friend Nate Heiss, has given speeches there, probably Gavin maybe has spoken, so it seems like Magic has made an effort to branch out more into overlapping between the physical and the digital space with a presence at GDC.
Yeah, they are a digital company too. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
They have, Arena is successful. I don't know if Magic Online still around? Like, they were making it when I was interviewing at the company, and Mike Danae and Henry Stern were playing, and they're like, "Are we supposed to tell him? Can we not tell him?" And then they told me, and I was like, "I don't care." But, I ended up getting the job and working with them anyway. But, I
I
liked
think
Modo. Modo was
I think
pretty
Moto
impressive
still
for its
exists.
time.
Yeah, I
It
believe
was
that they're
really
still like
impressive.
yeah. I think the last I heard is it was all contracted out to another developer. I wanna say
Leaping
Stainless?
Lizards.
Oh,
Leaping
that's right.
Lizards.
Yes. So
Yeah.
they sort of pay, I guess, a licensing fee to continue to support that platform, and I guess there's enough money in it for them or enough audience that it can sustain for those that just still wanna harken back to those Moto days.
I don't know who owns it now, but, like, that was who delivered it then, and it was at a time where, like, Magic is a hard game to code for, right? There were a lot of
Mhm.
problems. I remember Alan Comer, Elf, Michael Fewell, and Rachel Reynolds, like, every time we'd make a set, they would, like, cry a couple of tears, and they'd be like, "This isn't possible," and, they'd have to go figure it out. So I've never heard these stories in the wild, but they were hard problems to
Mhm.
solve. Um
Yeah. I've crossed paths with Alan a couple time over the years because he, floats around in the Seattle area. Sometimes I'll see him, at, like, some event that Randy Bueller is hosting or some other, kinda old school Magic player,
mhm.
Aussie folks get together that even though I never worked at Wizards, to have enough tangential relationships with people who are there or worked with people who ended up there that I can still kinda, you know, have enough of a Venn diagram overlap to glom on every once in a while.
How'd you get into making games? Like, I know your origin story a little bit, but not really. Like, Jay Schneider told a version of it, but everyone has the real version coming from themselves. Like, how did you get to Magic in the first place and games in the first place? Like,
You mean
before you
like
even work on them?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like games were always a part of my family growing up. We would play, like, all of the Hasbro classics, Monopoly and Yahtzee and Clue and Trivial Pursuit and all that stuff. And I
Mhm,
remember when Dungeons& and Dragons first came out, I latched onto that very early. I had that red box, the basic edition,
mhm.
before they even had any of the hardbound books. And this would have been, like, 4th grade, and I found,
Wow.
like, the 1 or 2 other people in my elementary school who had those geeky tendencies. I grew up in the South, and the culture in the South back in the '80s wasn't very friendly to, I'll say, like, alternative forms of entertainment and lifestyles that, what is now the sort of geek and nerd culture. There was a lot more focused on, like, sports and athletics, and I was just never predisposed to that stuff. So
Mhm.
I didn't find a lot of people who were interested in what now is pop culture with, like, comic books and, GI Joes and Transformers and, fantasy and science fiction, Star Wars and, D&D and stuff like that. But it just all kind of, was very formative to me, and I managed to find the few other people in my elementary school and middle school and high school that that did resonate with. So I just kind of followed that path along and played Dungeons& and Dragons and then got into playing Warhammer and doing the tabletop stuff with Warhammer Fantasy Battle and 40K. Found the local comic book store that also kind of dual functioned as the game store because game stores didn't exist at the time. They were all just sort of add-ons to comic book
Yeah.
stores.
Yeah,
And they're
yeah.
like, well, we also have a table in the back where people can play Warhammer or, try and increase our revenue. And then, so I had sort of found a local community. There was a game store not far from my home. So once I could drive, I would just go there after school and on weekends and just hang out. And that was my people, my community. Um, uh, and from there, uh, that that group of people ended up sort of migrating into live action role playing games, LARPs. That's
Mhm.
how I originally met Jay Schneider through the LARP, which was originally Nero, which is like the New England role playing organization. Some of the
Mhm.
people in the sort of Atlanta geeky community, some of the comic book store owners and gamers, had gone up to New England because they heard of this thing. It's like you can play like D&D in person for a weekend and run around in the forest and hit each other with foam swords and throw beanbags at each other, casting lightning bolts and magic missiles. And they brought it down and opened like a southern chapter uh, of Nero, and then kind of spun off, and we created our own sort of game systems called Solar.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that just kind of became part of the community. uh, and then Magic came out, and uh, we all sort of migrated into that. Like we all still did role playing and played in the LARPs, but for a lot of us, Magic started just consume all of our recreation. We didn't really keep up with playing Warhammer anymore, and just like it was the thing to do. And so this was right around the time when I was in college. So I went to school at the University of Miami, uh, and I found like my community of people there. They were interested in D&D and the magic and all that stuff. We actually sort of all we all lived on campus in the dorms and made sure we had rooms like on the same floor in the same hall, connected, so that we just basically spent all of our free time gaming. Whether it was playing video games or running role playing campaigns or playing Magic, just doing all this stuff in
Mhm.
the early 90s. I went to school like 91 to 95. Um,
Okay.
so Magic came out like right in the middle of that. Uh, and I discovered it here over the summer and then brought it back down. And my friends at college had also gotten into it. Uh, and that just started to consume a lot of our time. And so it kind of just went from there. Well, one of the things I I look back at fondly, but I also wonder how it could have sort of progressed things. Was Magic at back in the day was played for ante.
Yeah,
I know if people like
for
hear
sure.
the miss, you know, you actually would flip over a card in your deck, and the winner would take that card.
It was in the
And
design.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and so like that was the way we were supposed to play. That's the way we played. Um, and I was better than most of my friends and roommates. So I managed to build up a pretty sizable collection because I would win a lot of cards off of Ante and then like trade them back to get something else.
Mhm.
Um, that to a certain point where I think people are like, I don't really want to play anymore. I keep losing my cards and having to trade back for them. But I think at a certain point, we're just like, all right, we just won't play for Ante anymore. I had to make that concession. It's like, I still want to play. Like, we just can not play for Ante. Because I don't want
Yeah.
to disenfranchise everyone else. But it was kind of polarizing. Like, and for me, it was great because it's like I would get, sets of dual lands and stuff like that. And because I'd win and people be like, well, it's just a land. It's not that valuable. I'll trade back my hypnotic specter, to get a bayou or something. So looking back on it, it was very lopsided. But
Yeah,
yeah,
should, like, anyone make a game with Anti today? Like, if it's been so long, like, it would be so off color for what I think gamers like now, but, like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
would there be any market anywhere for something like that? Because no one ever tried it again, right? It was just like, "No."
Well, it's
We all yeah.
interesting because I think the game that has done a modern interpretation of it best recently is Marvel Snap, where like
Mhm.
there are stakes in each game. You're sort of, with the doubling, sort of, do you want to risk, losing 2 cubes, 4 cubes, 8 cubes? So it's not a like an ante of a card in your deck per se, but there is a gambling aspect to putting stakes out there and then doubling down on that that I
Mhm.
think is a pretty good modern take on an anti-style mechanic where we're wagering something, but then, applying it in the context of
It's
a
not
digital
so
trading card
painful.
game.
It's
Yeah.
not so painful. Losing a card that you paid for is pain, and having that be something that's baked into the rules that you didn't even know was going to be a part of it, um, that it
Mhm.
feels like a gotcha. You would want it to be something that people opted into on purpose. You should name your game something related to that. I
Yeah.
bet. Oh, look at that
Yeah.
guy. Where did he come from? That's Albert Burkhead. He is a magic
Oh,
historian of the
yeah.
Tinkle domain.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with him, and he was starting to put out some of his early content. And we haven't connected uh, significantly yet, but he's like, "Oh, I'd like to hear some of your stories on stuff because you played around the same time, whereas like the '95 Nationals stories and stuff like that." I was like, "I was at that Nationals. I remember, the bloom in the lap and all that stuff." So I've enjoyed some of his content and some getting some of his like deck recaps from designers, the history of some of those early decks. Yeah, he's got some fun content out there. Um,
He does. I tried to get him earlier this morning. I was talking to this guy, John Sellon. John Sellon worked on EVE Online, and he was the VP of game design at Pocket Gems, which made War Dragons, which was inspired by that type of game.
mhm,
And he was into martial arts as a kid. And so I was
mhm.
trying to get Albert Burkhead fought against, he played Majitsu, magic plus jujitsu against Raphael Levy. And I was like,
Yep.
maybe this is a bite because he was like deep down the well of other martial arts, but
Mm.
no dice, no dice. They could kickbox each other if it was a magic and a
Uh,
different, I think maybe Albert should branch out so that there's more, he needs more black belts. He can't just have one. Uh,
well, it's interesting because I listened to your conversation with him, and he's like, I don't think anybody can challenge me uh,
mhm.
in the jujitsu style of it. It's like if they're coming in like as a lesser for that, um, but equal for Magic Hammer, how he quite equated it. But so it's funny, my youngest brother has two black belts in jujitsu. Um, so I was
Wow.
like, he could probably challenge him. And he used to actually be a pretty good Magic player too. I used to play with my youngest brother. I have two younger brothers.
That's actually why
And I
Albert
used
comes to these. He's like, there might be some like pickings here, but continue.
Yeah. So I would imagine that on the jujitsu front, it would be a pretty fair fight. I my brother, he has two black belts, so I have to assume he's pretty good. He has a studio in Atlanta that he teaches at and runs now too. And he used to be pretty good at Magic, so I bet like with a month or two of practice, he could be competitive with Albert on the Magic side of it, and
Mhm.
then it would probably be a pretty even fight on the Jiu-Jitsu side. So I don't know. Like if that was somebody who could probably challenge on both fronts, if my brother had a little bit of time to prepare on the Magic side. 'Cause we used to play, we played at home a lot between the two of us, and we were pretty evenly paired. But my brother just never had the same, I guess, competitive desire when he was younger. He's like 4 years younger than me. Uh, so he didn't really pursue uh, competitive magic after
What
a
would
certain point.
motivate him? What would motivate him to fight Mason Trace or Albert Burkhead? I think like this is an opportunity. Like, what were the prizes, Albert? Like they were good, right? The prizes were actually like exciting. Obviously, there was a belt to fight over in the Raphael Levy fight, but there was also like a
Uh,
collector's box someone got. It's
okay.
it's oh hey. Hi, I'm not free. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, thank you.
What would motivate him? I don't know. I haven't talked to my brother about this, so I don't know if he would be motivated. And he competed a little bit, but I don't think he just doesn't have that same competitive nature on either front. So I don't know, what would draw him into wanting to compete. I think he's more interested in the teaching and the like
Mm,
community aspects of
okay.
jujitsu. But I know it's like a really strong community and identity for him.
What if, like, you tag teamed? Like, let's forget the whole, like, you have to do both
There you go.
thing. It's against Magic playing brothers, but one does the magic and the other does the jujitsu.
That could work. Although I'd have to really brush up on my Magic playing too, because I don't really play that much currently and keep up with things. So
You're a
maybe
Pro
if we
Tour
play,
top 8 competitor multiple
that is
times
true.
over,
That
right?
is true. I do have 2 Pro Tour top 8. So I guess to get back to the history of, how I got to where I'm at, yeah, I played Magic in college and, really enjoyed the game. Local tournaments started popping up, so I invested a little more heavily in keeping up with that scene,
Mhm.
and then, with the establishment of the Pro Tour, like, this seems pretty fun. I think I have a shot at this. Played in PTQs over the first couple of years until I finally won a slot, and my first Pro Tour was Paris.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I played pretty consistently between, I guess, 96 and 2002, 2003. I'm mostly only going to like North American and maybe a couple European pro tours. I never went to any of the Japanese ones or anything like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I got 2 top 8s. I made top 8 in LA 98, which was Tempest Block constructed.
Oh, I was
And
there.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I was the only person playing my deck, which Jay Schneider and I designed together. It was the basically Suicide Black, super hyper aggressive deck. And when everyone else was playing a red or green version of it, because it was all about
Mhm.
like that format was all around like getting your curse scrolls
Hyper
on
agree.
and scalding tongs online. And I think what a
Mhm.
lot of people didn't recognize about what gave Black an advantage was it could just be faster because Dark Ritual was in the format. Like
Yeah.
you could get your hand empty faster and put more aggression on the board quicker. And they had 2 one-mana creatures with Sarcomancy, so you could
Mhm.
you could match on aggression. It was a really fun format, and people just
Yeah.
you know, didn't come up with it, but Jay and I did, and, play some very unique cards, Sarcomancy, Spinal Graft. You could, like, turn 1 Dark Ritual, Sarcomancy, Spinal Graft, you have a Juzam Jin. You have a 5/5 creature on turn 1.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, it could kill people very, very quickly in that format. So, yeah, it was a really fun deck, and it was a really fun format.
That sounds like fun. Our deck was mono green, and we were
Mhm,
ancient tombing it, so we would
mhm.
get spat out really quickly. Similar vibe, but,
Yeah.
uh,
And you have the
we
slivers too, right? You can power up the muscle slivers and uh, the
metallics.
artifact lens, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it was good. We did pretty well, but we were no Andy Wu or Andrew Wu. But at the time, you were
Yeah.
either.
But that was a great format. There was, like, a great
I like
diversity in
that.
decks, you could, there was like, a blue-white control deck. One of my favorite memories from that event was do you remember the Wrath of God in that format? Winds of Wrath? It's like
Mhm,
is like 3 white, white, and it
mhm.
basically with Wrath of God text, unless the creatures were enchanted, and
Uh,
and, Spinal Graft was enchantment that you put on a token, and I remember multiple times I would have just, like, a token representing the zombie with a Spinal Graft attached to it, and people would cast like, they would think, like, "Oh, I'm gonna stabilize this board, I'm gonna cast Winds of Wrath," and realize that they weren't killing anything
that is
because
really obscure.
yeah, yeah. But, like, Giant Strength was also in the format, right? The red decks
Yeah,
played in Sigma too, so that the Winds of Wrath was not actually as strong of a wrath
control was
as
bad.
yeah,
Control was really bad. I was play testing with one group, and they were like, "We must play control," and I was like, "Control isn't going to work at all in this format," and so I just didn't work with those people.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And my other top
hmm,
8 was, San Diego 2002, which was Odyssey only Rochester Draft, which
okay.
I don't know if people remember Rochester, but, like, man, what a format.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. I liked all of these formats, I think, for the most part. Like, except I didn't like the masked flock anything, but I did like almost all formats are fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that,
Uh,
like, I really like the skill testing of Rochester, but I understand logistically why it just doesn't make sense. It's takes so long to
mhm.
draft in that format. But it's the ultimate skill tester because, like, all the information is public. You know exactly what everyone's doing, especially when you're going into, like, top 8 and you know who your opponents are. You're like, "Oh, I see that's what you're drafting. I can make very intentional decisions to at least try and win my first round."
Yeah, I liked that format a lot. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting how Magic has shifted over time.
Mhm.
What was your favorite epoch of Magic?
Um I think IPA. I really liked Invasion Block.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, that was a really fun format. And also that was the only I yeah, Invasion Block Constructed was where I finished second in a Grand Prix. I think it was in Minneapolis, and I lost to David Humphreys in the finals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have been haunted ever no, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's funny. Yes, actually, because I lost because I made a mistake in game 3 where for anybody who knows David Humphreys, he is notoriously slow and methodical in his play, which has
He makes
served
good
him well.
decisions. Yeah.
Yes, but it means that turns can kind of drag on and you may overlook something. So I remember
Mhm.
there was a moment where I was casting, I think it was Orem's Thunder. It was like a disenchant with a kicker that did damage. Um, and I had cast that, like, after combat with a kicker to finish off a creature, forgetting that another creature still had some lingering combat damage that I should have killed instead because it happened so much later in a turn that because David just played so slow, it's like, it was all on me. I made the mistake. But if I had targeted the thunder on a different creature, it it would have turned the tide of the game. And a couple turns later, I'm like, "Oh, yep, I just lost track of the nuances of that particular turn, how much damage was left on these creatures post combat, what I needed to kill, and Dave ended up winning. But still, it was I mean, that was still a fun tournament. And then I got to go on working with Dave on the World of Warcraft trading card game. So that was my first like real job working in games was
Mhm.
at Upper Deck on the WoW TCG. And I got to work with Dave Humphreys and Ben Sec was there. Justin Gary was there. Lots of people.
Ruben,
Yeah.
hacker, I guess, showed up at some point.
Yep. He was around. There were people like Ken Ho. A lot of folks came through there.
Hmm. How did that happen? Like, I'm also interested in the Atlanta or the Magic scene in the South because, like, my perception of, like, the people in Florida who played were, like, they definitely were different than, say, the New York folks or, like, the Boston folks. They had a little more spice and flair to them, but
Mhm.
I don't remember you in, like, the, like, spice and flair group, but maybe you were, like, around them? Like, you have, like where were you in the South orbit? And, like, was there anything that made it stand out versus the other populations of players?
Yeah, I think that, like, the Atlanta scene, uh, didn't quite have as many standouts, but there were a couple of solid performers, and we integrated mostly with, like, the Tallahassee crew of Florida, which would be people like Aziz Al-Dori
Mhm.
or, I'm like, Randy Ellis. I don't know if, if anybody knows these names. And then, like, but we also branched out kinda north to, like, North Carolina with, like, Rudy Edwards. So, it was sort of like
Yeah,
North and South Carolina, yeah, Georgia, Atlanta, down to Northern Florida, um, was all sort of a cohort, and Atlanta was sort of that central meeting place. So invariably, uh, these folks would get get qualified for pro tours through PTQs. We all would sign and kind of grind through the scene, playing all over the Southeast. I mean, driving up to like the High Point, North Carolina.
yeah,
PTQ were epic back in the day. Going down to probably as far down as like Orlando, and I drove over to like Alabama and to like Knoxville, yeah, South Carolina. Just like there was enough geographical stuff within like 5 to 6 hours driving. Um, and we would just all see each other at these events all the time.
Mhm.
And and whoever ended up being qualified would generally kind of congregate in Atlanta to practice. So that was sort of our cohort. We didn't really overlap as much with, I guess, more of the Southern Florida folks or like the Tongo, right? There's Tongo crew, a good chunk of
Pretty
them were in
far.
Florida, right?
No,
Um,
they're in Virginia, I think.
oh, okay. I'm thinking, what was I thinking? I think of Jerry Sunken. Like, wasn't he sort of, um,
I don't know this guy.
oh, okay. Uh,
I remember
anyway,
Kyle Vigos, but I don't know where he's
yeah,
from, or Pacifico.
Kyle,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, Kyle was Tallahassee also.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all like FSU people by and large, or people in that area. So that was
They
sort of my crew, my cohort, and I feel like
okay.
nobody had quite the degree of success as like the Tongo people or the Dead Guys or CMU or Boston. Um, but we were often like in the mix. I suppose like I was the had the best performance of any of them. With
Yeah,
having
Kyle
all
made
my
the
faith.
national team.
Yep, yep. Uh, but, I think mostly were friendly with, the dead guys more so than anybody else. So, yeah, I still consider people like, uh, Chris and John and Tony and Dave Price, friends. So, like, I haven't kept up with as many of them over the years, but, I'll still talk to mostly Chris and every once in a while, John, every so often.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was opaque to me. I've never been to many of the places you described. I did get to High Point, and I think I went to the Pro Tour and the Grand Prix in Atlanta, but,
Mhm,
that was it. Like, I just saw these people that had some kind of swagger to them. Like, there was a
mhm.
confidence to, like, the Tallahassee group that, like, I never had. So, um,
Yeah,
uh, a very
it was a good
distinct
group.
flavor of teams. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel
Alright.
like we were
I
all very supportive of one another and, would rally and
that makes
practice
sense.
and deck build and stuff like that. But then there was another sort of more Atlanta-focused cohort that I think was just less competitive minded, but we're still strong players in the local scene, just didn't quite have the grind for it. So you could see them at, like, local tournaments, you'd see them at draft nights and stuff like that, and this was more like Jay Schneider and sort of kinda, an associated group of friends that also were attached through that LARP that I talked about, that I think played more, like, casually competitive, and they're like, "I don't really care about qualifying for the Pro Tour, but I'll show up for the weekly tournaments and, win $25 store credit and still be, good opponents."
Yeah, that's pretty weird, but it's cool. I guess that did exist. There were people who were good that didn't care about traveling far to play an event.
Right.
Well,
They made
how did you get that deck? Like, what did you
yeah,
do before that?
uh, so I went my undergraduate degree is in art, and I worked for after college, I worked for like 10 years as a graphic designer in the Atlanta area. Um,
Mhm.
and so this would have been again like mid to late 90s and into early 2000s. So Magic was just like on the weekends, and maybe I need to take a long weekend, a little bit of vacation to travel to a Pro Tour or Grand Prix. But because like I had a full time job outside of Magic, it wasn't my primary focus. That's why I didn't travel, like, quite as extensively and go to as many events. Like, well,
Mhm.
I have a real job and, um, eventually entered in, and started dating and got married and, like, all
You
that
sound
stuff
too
kinda
healthy, Andrew.
yeah,
You sound too
tried to
healthy.
have
Like,
a good work-life balance with all that stuff.
your
It
degeneracy meter is going down.
um, so I worked as a graphic designer and, yeah, I don't know, it's like more of a normie, uh and kept up with Magic as a more a recreation. Still was enough to like pay for itself with some success. So it was great as a hobby. Like my wife at the time never could get upset because like, well, it's not like you're losing money on this. You're traveling, you're going to events, you're winning. It's paying for itself. So as a hobby, it seems like it's okay. She came to a couple of the events. That didn't really work out great. It turns out there was this idea of magic widows, and and our spouses kind of said, "This isn't really that
It's not
fun."
fun at all.
No,
No.
no.
And if it
He
is
went to, like,
fun, it's
1 or
even
2.
worse.
Yeah. He went to, like, 1 or 2, he's like, "I'm not doing that anymore. You just wanna stay
Yeah.
up all night doing money drafts and stuff." Like, I thought maybe one evening we'd go out on the town and, do something touristy, and I was like, "I just wanna kinda go and do money drafts with everyone." So, yeah. Yeah, the
It
Magic
doesn't
Widow
don't
thing,
cross the streams. Don't cross
no,
the streams. Yeah, my
no.
my wife is not coming to MagicCon with us. I didn't even think about it. I'll bring my daughter, I'll bring my dad, and that's sufficient. But,
Yeah.
I don't think the streams need to be crossed. Although at this point, it's not like we're gonna money draft at this age. You would probably
Right.
I don't have a need to play or prove myself. I don't know about you, but, like, we've played enough. Like,
Yeah.
we have
No.
we have beaten people at things.
Yeah. No, it's
When
just really for fun.
once you make a game, and balance the game, just your brain kinda changes, I find. Like, I couldn't care about winning any game anymore. I'm like, "Oh, I'm just
Hmm,
here to figure out how it works." And if
interesting.
I don't anything that's numbers fighting or like a track with numbers going up, I cannot care. Like, I'll be like, "All right, let's just figure out how to make it work." But all the things that like a human might care about into the quest to like optimize the strategy, I'm like, I'm not going to spend time on numbers fighting. Um, so it's a just a shift in mentality. I don't know.
Mhm.
I
Yeah, it waxes and wanes for me. I think I
mhm,
still do have a little bit of a competitive spirit if I'm playing a game. Like, I want to, first of all, like, not embarrass myself, and I play, like, a lot more board games now than I do keeping up with, say, one TCG or one singular thing.
mhm,
So, there's always, like, "Alright, this is a new game, there's a learning curve to it, I wanna see if I can, like, grok it and figure out the systems, and not embarrass myself. But like winning still, I don't. For me, I still find it satisfying. I enjoy that
yeah.
feeling.
It's
So
fun to win. It's fun to win.
yeah,
We
but
went to
more just to
trivia
show up
night.
and
We went to trivia night like a few weeks back, and we didn't win. And one of us was like, "We need to win," and the other was like, "I don't care if we win. Like, I never will." And I was the latter. I like pick your battles. Yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, if you're gonna spend the time to play the game, you might as well care. Also,
Yeah. Anyway, so get back to your question. I worked as a graphic designer for like 10 years and kind of felt like I had reached the end of that career path and was
mm,
looking for something new to do. So I took a couple of years off and explored some different opportunities. I went back to school and got certified to teach, and then decided I didn't want to be a teacher.
mhm,
Um, I took some culinary arts classes and thought, well, maybe I want to get into a kitchen and do some cooking because I enjoyed that.
that's pretty
Uh,
cool.
yeah, and I like developed some great skills, but didn't end up applying that into a career. I got caught up in the online poker craze a little bit and did that for like 6 months until I found like I do not have the emotional stamina, the wherewithal to do that.
Mm,
Those swings. Like some days you make money and you earn a living, and then some days you for your living you have lost money, and I'm like this does not feel satisfying. So I quickly
yeah,
recognized that I do not have the personality to play online poker for a living. But I tried it for like 6 months, and again, this was a time when it was super popular. So all of the like that old school Magic crew here, Aziz and Rudy and all those folks, they were doing it. So
mhm.
Joe Crosby is another one too. And I don't know if you remember Joe Crosby.
Yeah, I remember too.
Yeah. Like they were all like deeply invested in it. So we would like get together and play sort of communally so we could help each other and learn from one another and, get advice like, what should I do with this hand? How would you play this? So there was a community to sort of help support people who wanted to take that seriously. Um, which, which is a great resource to have, but I ultimately decided it wasn't for me. And then, a job posting came across for Upper Deck. They were hiring for the World of Warcraft trading card game. The first like 2 or 3 sets had already been released. Um, I had picked it up and played it a little bit. I think I played in the first Worlds and I sort of moneyed for that event. It finished like the top 96 or something. I'm like, this,
Mhm.
I enjoyed this game. Um, so I so I had already kind of been invested in it, when the job opportunity presented itself. I was like, "I'll apply, we'll see what happens." And I think I had applied to 1 or 2 positions in as, part of R&D and Wizards in the past, but didn't get super far into the process. It
Mhm.
You probably remember that, like, what they used to call it, the Vapor Ops test?
It has been a while.
Yeah, it was sort of like that game design test, like,
Yeah.
make up cards and create rationale for 'em, stuff like that. I'd
Mhm.
gotten far enough, like, I had to take that test at one point, which is a really challenging exercise. I remember this is, like, many years ago, Mark Rosor had, like, posted a version of it for
Mhm.
everyone to see. Is like, "This is our metrics for how we test potential, R&D candidates, to see if they're up to muster." So anyway, had if there was an opportunity at Wizard, I would apply. Didn't ever land anything there, but ended up landing this job working as a developer for the WoW TCG, uh, which meant moving cross country from Atlanta to San Diego, where Upper Deck was located, and like starting a whole new life, a whole new career. Uh, and the short version is the rest is history because I haven't looked back, as I've worked in games since 2008 when I
Mhm.
started at Upper Deck. But yeah, I guess my humble game industry beginnings were as a developer for the WoW TCG. Yeah, I worked there for a couple of years, and then when it moved over to Cryptozoic, uh, I remained on and was there for like a year and a half. That's when we brought on people like Mike Donay and Nat Place. So I got to work with them a little bit.
Mhm.
Uh, Ended up leaving Cryptozoic and uh, started looking around for other opportunities and discovered there was a company in uh, North County, San Diego called USAopoly.
Yeah.
At the time, they were primarily a board game publisher doing licensed and themed versions of Monopoly and Hasbro games. Uh, and I wasn't even aware they existed until I just kind of started looking around at what was in the area, what kind of opportunities were there, and sort of like sight unseen, just sent an email saying, "Hey, I have some game industry experience. I don't know if you're looking for anyone to like help develop games and design games, but if you are, I'd love to just talk to you." Like there was
Mhm.
not an opening available. And I just reached out and fortunately somewhat it caught someone's attention and they're like, "We're not really hiring, but if you if you want to come by, we do like a weekly game night and you're welcome to just like join and play some games."
Absolutely.
And I was like, "Yeah." So I went to a game night and just, I don't know, impressed them enough. They're like, "You seem like a pretty sharp, talented guy that would be a valuable asset to the company. We're gonna create a role for you."
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
pretty rare.
Yeah, it was really fortunate that, the company was looking to diversify and do more than just the Monopoly games, get out into more signature game space and do non-licensed games. Um, and so I sort of carved out a role to sort of bridge the gap. And it also was helpful that I had such a good sort of pop culture and, geeky background that a lot of the licenses they're working on, I knew backwards and forwards, so I could apply sort of meaningful insight into that stuff as well. It's like, "Oh, you're working on a Harry Potter game? I know the Harry Potter franchise, very deeply. I can, help make some recommendations for that. Oh, we're gonna make a World of Warcraft, game? Okay, well, like, I know that franchise." It's just, like, everything at the time, for in the pop culture milieu, uh, I had good experience with that just was a value add to the company, even though that wasn't strictly what I was focused on. So I was more working on the non-licensed signature game space, at the time, but that career just grew from there. I was with USAopoly now known more colloquially as the Op, for like 7 years. Got to design a bunch of games, work with like all of the big IPs. So I've worked with Disney properties and Marvel and Star Wars and Warner Brothers for like DC and Harry Potter and Cartoon Network stuff for like Adventure Time, and it's like laundry list of like any of the cool pop culture IP that you might think you want to work on. I got a chance to work on, so it was really a dream job for a number of years.
What was your favorite game that you made from that time?
Yeah, I, I think the one that I'm most proud of, there's a couple, but the one I usually lean back to is Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. It was a
Mhm.
cooperative deck building game um, that uh, it really concepted from kind of nothing, where USA Monopoly was having a lot of success with the Harry Potter license at the time. Again, mostly in the co-branded game space, doing like Clue and Trivial Pursuit and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and so we just put together a pitch for Warner Brothers to say, "Hey, what if we make a signature Harry Potter game that's cooperative in nature, where you get to play as the main characters?" And like basically built a working prototype of sort of the first version of the game. Came in, pitched to them, like just played the game with them, and they're like, "This is amazing. We love this. Like, go make this for us." So then I got to go back and like fully flesh out, develop the full game. Um, it it was really, really well received and really successful. At the time, Harry Potter fans were like, "This like the authenticity, the sort of integrity and respect you were treating the franchise with in, and also creating a really compelling, resonant game, um, was really rewarding." And one of the things that I also think that it did a little differently was, so it was a cooperative game, which was a little bit more novel at the time. There was like pandemic, but there wasn't a lot of like games where we can all play and have a shared experience together and win or lose together.
Mhm.
Um, but it really worked well with the IP of like, okay, we're playing
Yeah,
as Harry,
there's a
Ron, Hermione, Neville, going on adventures, working together to try and defeat these threats. Um, and yeah, it was a really, really, really fun project to work on. Uh, and I've since it's been like 10 years now, I think, since that game has come out. But I still get people who will, come up to me like, "Oh, yeah, that game was, like, really important at sort of opening up the floodgates for what a good
oh, wow. Mhm.
IP game in the board game space can look like." It's like,
Mhm.
and especially, like, from US Monopoly, where there were often accusations of like, "Oh, you're just a label slap company. You're just, taking this IP and putting it on Monopoly." Like, "Oh, you're really thoughtful and intentional about this and taking a beloved IP and creating a really fun gameplay experience out of it that a lot of other companies started to look at." And that's when you started to see a lot more signature branded IP games start to come out. So I'm really, really proud of that, and kind of, I think, sort of being at the forefront of that sort of modern innovation with the board game space.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's certainly an audience that, like, wants to reward good work, if you know what I mean. I was
Hmm.
talking to Scaff on an earlier call about the Wizards Harry Potter game. There were
Hmm.
a bunch of things that, like, that game came out at the beginning of Harry Potter fandom pretty much, or very early on, and, like, if anyone could have caught that fire early, it would have been really interesting. No one did it. No one could figure the right recipe out in that, like, first decade or so.
Hmm.
But over time, Hogwarts Legacy, the game you're describing, um, the fandom wants it. It's been elusive for
Hmm.
sure,
Yeah. Yeah. And
despite the
again, I
fact
think
it's
the
a great
biggest
IP.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference was, like, making it cooperative. Like, I don't wanna compete as, like,
It
Ron
doesn't make
versus
sense.
Harry. It didn't, yeah, but I
Why
think
is
that
Hannah Abbott fighting, like, Dumbledore? It doesn't make any sense at all. Dueling
right.
is not interesting. Quidditch is not interesting. There are a number of aspects of, like, the universe that don't make for a very compelling game, or even in a movie. It's like this nonsense sport could go away, right?
Mhm.
Someone could edit it. It sounds like you did.
Yeah, the other thing that we did, because we recognized that the IP skewed a little bit younger was to be very intentional around the game design in making it sequential. I know we talked a
Mhm.
little bit about like, modern video games don't have to teach you how to play. They just throw you in there and through guided tutorials will give you all the skills you need so you don't like reading a rule book and understanding what all the core concepts are. When I designed Hogwarts Battle, I took those lessons and tried to apply them to a board game space where it's like, if you've played a very robust deck building game, it's pretty complicated and kind of hard to wrap your head around. So how
Mhm.
do you kind of layer in stages of learning to say, we're going to teach you the very, very basics. And so it's built sort of the model of like going to school and learning more works in the favor of the game as well. So you
Oh,
show
yeah.
up as in game one as first year students, and the game is very simple. It's very basic. Like any experienced gamer is going to say, like, this is a baby deck building game. But it's like, yeah, but like a Harry Potter fan may have never played a modern board game. We can't assume that they're going to have the skills language to do that. We
Mhm.
need to present something that they can be onboarded with. And it works within the narrative. So it's like when you finish that game, like, okay, I feel kind of comfortable about this. All right, great. You're going to open another box now. You're going to move on to year two. We're going to throw a couple more mechanics at you. It's going to get a little more complex. And you progress through it sequentially. So you really get 7 full games you get to play by the end. And you don't feel like when you get to year seven that you had
That's
to
it.
spend a lot of time learning all these complexities. You've just kind of mastered it as you've progressed. And now you're
Mhm.
playing this, really robust, much more complicated game, but in a way that feels very, very natural and resonant.
You've been trained.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you're
that's
having
really
fun
cool.
doing it. And it feels like it's in line with the narrative along the way. So it all just kind of it worked together really well. So yeah, it was a really, really fun project.
What kind of game designer are you? This is a bit leading since we've already talked about it a little bit, but like, what do you leverage most in your designs that makes your approach special? If you know what I mean? Like, where do you index? If you had, there's all these weird visual charts like octalysis and whatnot. It's like, where do you index? Like, there's like game balance, feel, different types of systems,
Mhm.
um, onboarding a tutorial. But like, so Freed now and I like work together at Pocket Jams, and he's like, "Oh, you're an empath designer who can do math."
Mhm.
He's like, "I don't see that very often. That's really weird." And so my impression in talking with you is that you're kind of similar in that way, where you're an empath
Mhm.
designer who's like definitely like thinking about what people are feeling and how things feel when you're making a game. It's interesting. I worked at, Zynga where you would interview people for their analytical ability, and you couldn't ask about feel, or
Mhm.
if you did, it was bizarre to do so, right? Because the culture was kind of anathema to it. But when you're making an
Mhm.
analog game, feel is, like, inordinately important. Um, and so
Yeah.
in our conversations, there's been this thread of, like, some people are really quant forward, some people are really, mechanics forward, but you're definitely someone who likes to feel how the design is playing and adapting it along the way. Is
Yeah,
that
very
right?
much so. I feel like yes, very, very much. I feel like I lead my design and development philosophies through empathy and the
Mhm.
feeling that I want the game to evoke when you sit down. I will freely admit that I'm like not the best at the math of it, and like people often argue is like Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle is really fun, but it's not like the best balance. I'm like I don't care about that. I care about the experience more. And like if this
Yeah.
card maybe should have cost 6 instead of 7, oh, okay, it's it's not
Here's
perfectly balanced. But
here's a
it
pen. This Go ahead. Change it for your own
but
sake. Yeah.
did you have fun? Did you enjoy the experience around it? And because I spent so much time working with a lot of IPs, again, that empathy, that feeling of like, okay, if I'm designing a Star Wars game, what does a Star Wars game feel like? What does it look like? What's the UI of it? What's the UX of it? It's like from a, emotional perspective. Because
Mhm.
these people who are gonna buy these games have that kind of visceral response to these properties. They're fans of them. They have nostalgia for them. they're not looking for the nuance of the math. Like, okay, is this perfectly balanced? Is this all, work out in the X's and O's of it? They're like, no, I want to walk away and say like, I had a tabletop Star Wars experience. And so that's sort of how I lead my design philosophy. I think
Mhm.
about what's the experience we're going to have when we sit down at the table.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me. It certainly feels like where games have gone more and more over the years, especially the good ones. You wanna feel
Mhm.
like you're playing out an experience more than you wanna play math battle.
Yeah.
Not that math battles aren't successful, but first, like, there were very mechanical card games that didn't succeed because they were too mechanical and not flavorful enough. And that was
Hmm.
actually, like, over and over. That is something that, like, the Universes Beyond stuff is, like, done pretty well. Like, it does bring IPs to life in a way that I
Hmm.
enjoy, like, the Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings stuff, you're in the D&D stuff, you're like, "This actually is quite resonant," from, like, an, "Oh, I know what we're doing here, and it actually
Hmm.
works for me," perspective. Um, I don't know about the current set and whether that'll feel that way. How would you feel if you were running Magic? What would you do? And don't get yourself in trouble.
I don't think I can get myself in trouble for reflecting on magic.
Excellent.
Um, I don't work for that company,
You don't.
and
That is true.
um, uh, so I was like, what am I going to do by calling them out? I actually think, and I've listened to your previous podcast or guest, kept up with some of their observations and criticism. I actually think that Magic Wizards is doing a very good job with how they are positioning things now. And it's
Mhm,
interesting. I've been working at Pokemon for the last almost 6 years.
mhm,
But before I joined, uh, I had moved up to Seattle to work for Funko and their game studio when that
yes.
existed briefly, and that didn't end up lasting too long. So this was right around early 2020, like right around the time the pandemic was hitting. And I was looking for other opportunities and applied at both Wizards and Pokemon. Obviously, like the, the, the end of the story is I ended up getting a job at Pokemon. Uh, but I got pretty far in the process interviewing at Wizards as well. And this was for Universes Beyond stuff because I felt like I had a lot to bear
You
to
have
it. I
a
was like, I
great
worked with a
resume
lot
for
of,
that.
yeah, I was like, I know Magic really well. I know these IPs really well. I understand this vision. And I was like fully on board because I know a lot of people are like, I don't want you to get your chocolate in my peanut butter. And like, why are you trying to make Marvel superheroes magic cards and Turtles magic cards and, Doctor Who and all of this stuff? And like, look, if the brand is going to grow, you have to breach out into a more diverse audience. Like, great,
Mhm,
you've got your core invested fan base in Magic, and they're not going anywhere, and they will play what you put out by and large. And obviously, Commander has grown tremendously, and they've invested in that. But the Universe Beyond stuff, yeah, this was 5 6 years ago. It was sort of still in its infancy. I was like, I
mhm.
am fully on board with this vision. I think it's a brilliant, you know, corporate strategy to grow Magic, and I think it's worked very well.
I agree.
And I think that, like, I haven't kept up that closely with all of the releases, but I casually keep up with them, follow the spoiler season, and by and large, every time I look at something, and I'm usually a fan of most of the IPs, like, I watched a lot of Doctor Who, I saw that stuff, and that looks really fun. I'm a huge Marvel, Spider-Man fan. I saw the Spider-Man set, and I think maybe it didn't perform as well financially as people thought it would, and I've heard some people have more, like, critical design comments for it, but I was like, I think they did a really good job with it. Like,
Mhm,
again, I haven't played it, but on paper, I look at the cards and go like, "Those feel like Spider-Man cards." I don't so I know past guests have, been a little more critical. I'm like, I don't know if I share that criticism. Maybe like, in how it actually plays, it's not as fun as when I read it.
mhm.
But I look at those cards and I'm like, those feel pretty superheroic, feel pretty Spider-Man-y to me. So I looked at that set, and I thought they did a good job. I thought the Avatar set, same way with the different bending. Um, so I think that they've been really, really smart and intentional about making each of these universes beyond feel very lived in for that IP. But I get that, like, that core Magic fan looks at it and goes, It's not the,
for
the
sure.
fantasy trope that I'm used to.
Yeah, it's not what I loved. And
Mhm.
it's not. It's something different that you could love
That's
if you
okay.
want to. You don't have to love it. Um,
Yeah.
I have a bunch of boxes behind me, which I never open until the children say, "Hey, Dad, let's play," and they never do. Um, but a bunch of them are like these IP sets that I think they'll like,
Mhm.
Avatar and I had D&D like whenever yes, people said, "Hey, this is good." I'm like, "Ugh, fine." Um, just have it for when they like if I pass away in any window of time, it'll probably be worth having packed up in
Mhm.
my closet, right? So, it doesn't bother me. In fact, like anytime I see a card that is cool, has a cool treatment on it, and it's got really wild art, I'm like, I don't have a problem with it. Like,
Mhm.
seems pretty cool to me. I would love to have this if I cared about collecting. It would be pretty magical. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't trouble me that much, but also like it's been a long time since I cared about winning, right? And I think it's mostly the people who care about winning that would care because that's a game that's incoherent, right? You're basically
Mhm.
playing. It's even more. It's less coherent by far than legendary, which makes some sense as you play it, right?
Yeah.
This is like, Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Constructed seems bizarre, but, again, like, do the cards even have art and text if, like, you're playing at a competitive level?
That is,
No,
I 100% agree with that. It's like, I'm going to play with the best cards for my deck that
I
allow
don't
my
care
deck to
about
function. I don't care if it's a Spider-Man card or a Turtles card or a Dominaria card. Like, yeah, maybe aesthetically it does feel weird, but if you are playing to win, then just play with the cards that are best. They're just text boxes with numbers on them.
yeah.
The flavor of it stops to have any relevance if that's what you care about.
I'm like,
You know.
what would I rather have a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set more than? Like, Fallen Empires? For sure. Homelands? For sure. Chronicles? For sure. Mercadian Masks? For sure. And then, like, you know, you're getting into like actual sets that might be good or whatnot. But like there are many sets I would prefer Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles over.
Mhm.
Um, the Dark isn't very good, right? I probably prefer not to have that in Magic.
Should we bring up Cold Snap?
That is triggering.
I was like,
I didn't
"Uh-oh."
work on Cold Snap. I didn't work on Cold Snap. So Time Spiral forked. So Aaron Forsyth, Devin Lowe, I think Matt Place and I focused on and Henry probably focused on Magic, and I think it was like Randy, Zvi, um, and I don't remember who else was on it, but like the team had to fork to make Cold Snap, and so I
Mhm.
never really had the mental energy to get to it because Time Spiral was in a pretty big hole by the time Cold Snap became a thing. We weren't Time Spiral's design was a bit flat when it came in, so we were like, "Oh, no. Like, we have a lot of work to do to try to juice this thing up and make it interesting."
Mhm.
And so it was bandwidth was limited, and we added a Cold Snap. Cold Snap is far like, as a concept, if you design it differently, Cold Snap doesn't, like, bother me from, like, "Hey, there's this interesting 3rd Ice Age set." Like, if
Yeah.
it had been designed differently, I don't have a problem with that. That's cool. Make it a little more powerful and interesting, that's cool. Um,
It also
uh,
never got to live, like, within the context of what it was supposed to be associated with, right? Like, there was no such
yeah,
thing as an Ice Age Alliance's Cold Snap block because those cards, were printed such a long time ago. So, like, in theory, it makes
yeah.
sense, but in reality, nobody got to
Remaster
experience
that.
what it was supposed to do.
Remaster it in one set and it works, right? But the way we
Yeah,
did it, it was like it just didn't make sense, and it was a bad time for us to pull it off, and, um
yeah.
it's interesting now. It's like I think Time Spiral is remembered better than it felt back then, but, like, it was an interesting window of time where you went from very structured to set that has everything and can't be structured very easily, or that's how it felt at the time. Like, structure is good for Magic.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I yeah.
I enjoyed Time Spiral I think my experiences with it and my memories of playing the format, drafting it are by and large positive. So
Yeah, it was
I've heard
good.
y'all talk about it. I think y'all are maybe a little more critical of it than
I haven't
the
smiled in 20 years.
Well, look,
No.
it's not that hard. You can do it. There you go. But I'm sure, being closer to it, you're probably more critical to it and, went through the trenches of it. But I feel like from a public consumption perspective, Time Spiral was pretty well received and a fun set to play with. Like once you went on to, future site, I'm like, okay, maybe now we were starting to go off the rails a little bit. But it was also just, I think, interesting to see, pushing the boundaries of Magic. Sometimes you have to try, and sometimes you're like, you know what, didn't quite land right. But it if you're playing it safe all the time, you're gonna lose people. You've got to be willing to take some risks and try some new things. It's not always going to work, but
Yeah.
you learn something from it.
It's especially good in the world when you can, you know, ban cards quickly, but that didn't apply for Time Spiral. But you can also have one set instead of three, like have a whole year's worth of content be like good but not hit for everyone. Like you want your slate over the course of the year to hit for everyone. And I think
Mhm,
um yeah, you're probably right. I think the sets that we worked on were probably pretty good by and large. And Magic's been good for a long time. Um,
mhm, yeah, and I
yeah,
recognize,
probably even
like,
most of
the
its run,
luxury.
actually.
Yeah, and I recognize the luxury of, like, well, I don't have any, like, vested interest in it, so for me to say, like, "Oh, it's okay to miss on something," it's like, well, from a corporate perspective, if you have earnings you have to meet and stuff like that, like, well, there is a certain amount of we have to perform. We can't have set after set miss and take risks on things, so I get it. There's capitalism too, and we have to make money, and products need to be successful to sustain and keep us all employed. Um, so I do want to go back and, like, the
Mhm.
one thing that I think I've reflected on over the past couple of years on Magic, like if I worked on it, I might approach differently is um like it's not even like bifurcation, trifurcation, like the sort of skewing of the audiences that I've seen more from the way they position product. Like,
Mhm.
and I think it's gotten scaled back, but I remember going like, there are just too many different booster packs of Magic. I don't know what
Yeah.
is in a pack. What's in a collector's pack or a play pack or a set pack or
Starter
this?
pack
Yeah,
or it's like, yeah.
yeah. I think it's been dialed back, and there's been some course correction, but I will say one of the things that I appreciate about working at Pokemon is like we have one booster pack. The composition is always this.
Yeah.
It's not like this one is for this audience. It's like who's our audience? It is one product for everyone. Instead of like, oh, if you're this kind of Magic player, this is the product you want. If you're this kind, this is the product you want. I can't imagine going into a store nowadays and saying, I want to buy a booster pack of this. Well, which flavor of it do you want? And like, how do I
Yeah.
know which one I want? I feel like it requires a certain amount of education, and I don't know. Maybe the audience does know that, and I don't pay attention to it as much. But if I walk
Mhm.
in, it's like I want a booster pack of the Avatar set. Do you want a set booster, a play booster, a collector booster, a chocolate fudge ripple booster? I'm like,
It is an audience that likes complexity. By
yeah.
default, like, it opts into complexity. And you have secret layer, and there's all this, like, crazy stuff going on. So if you feel like you need to have comprehensive knowledge of it, I think it would be a hard game to play. But if you love
Mhm,
feeling, like, deeply immersed into, like, these, like, hidden hallways of collecting and whatnot, it works. It's it seems so elder. When I played recently, it was like, "This is more complicated than Magic was when I worked on it and played it." Um,
mhm.
to an extent where it was like, I think they've gone well beyond where we were when we were making it, and we thought it was too complex. That's weird.
Yeah, I think there has been a continuous trend towards sort of complexity scope creep that, like, we have to, keep out, I don't know, iterating on stuff. Which I guess, yeah, you have to do to a certain extent to keep people interested. But I don't know, sometimes it feels like if something works and you can continue to implement it in ways that still feel compelling, you don't have to reinvent the wheel and say like, "Well, this is another version of Kicker that I've seen 14 different versions of Kicker already.
Just do
You're
kicker
not
again.
you're not tricking me anymore." And I don't know. I don't know if other people think that, but when I look at a lot of Magic sets, when I look at the mechanics, I'm like, "Well, this is just a twist on Kicker or Threshold or cycling or this or that." And like, all right, they're all just sort of French vanilla mechanics of something that I've seen it 10,000 other times. couldn't this have also just been kicker?
Yeah, for sure, and it was a good mechanic. There's nothing wrong with kicker.
Yeah.
Uh, what's your on your bucket list at this point? You've worked on Pokemon, you've worked on, like, a really cool Harry Potter game, you've worked on a bunch of Upper Deck stuff. Like, what's your what would be, like, in 5 years, what's a good accomplishment that says, "Alright, this is an Andrew Wolf. Sorry, it's not your fault." I didn't call my friend Tronster his original name, which is what I called him 30 plus years ago. Uh, and I have failed you though. So if
It's
you
it's okay,
need to
you're
get
correcting yourself.
revenge,
Yeah.
I'm
It
trying.
it
I'm
the
trying.
Nah, I know. It can be a hard switch to flip when you've, gotten to know someone under one name and then, like,
Mhm.
as I said, it's like, "Oh, well, you're a grown up now. Yeah, I guess Andrew makes sense." I was like, "I like to think I'm a little grown up sometimes." So I adopted that
The grown-up game
persona.
designer,
But
like, it's
yeah,
gonna be your title now. Andrew Wolf, the grown-up game designer. It's, like,
uh,
not possible, it's not a real thing, there are no grown-up game designers, but,
yeah. We're making games.
uh,
We are having fun and trying to entertain people.
we're
Yeah,
children,
but
yes.
yeah, but to answer your question, um, I you know, I don't really think I have a big, like, bucket list of game achievements I'm chasing after anymore.
Mhm,
Like you said, I've gotten to work with all of these, top tier IPs. I got to make a Star Wars game. Like, that was the
mhm,
one that is like, if I ever get to do that, that'll be, where I've really been like, "All right, I can mark them all off that list." And I did get to make a Star Wars game, so that was an achievement. Now when I think about, like, working in games, I eh, what I'm really appreciative about, like, working with Pokemon is that just, like, from a corporate culture perspective, there's such a great work-life balance that I feel like I don't have to, like, chase and grind after things, and, like, I can enjoy my job and the people I work with and the brand I work on and the products that we make and, the experiences that we support. Um that I don't have to, like, fully invest myself into that lifestyle at the sacrifice of anything else. So, I want to explore different things maybe outside of the game space, as the success I've found in the industry, the financial freedom that I've gained over the years has started to afford me.
mhm,
I mean, I'm thinking about, like, I don't, honestly, and I guess, like, this is probably maybe a question to throw back at you because you
mhm,
recently so I've sort of like you left a role and you're kind of taking some time doing something else that's not necessarily like
not
career,
commercial.
financially, commercially motivated.
Mhm,
I mean, I'm starting to think about that and go like, I'm not, if anybody from Pokemon is listening, I was like, I'm not leaving tomorrow or anything, but thinking about the future, how do I want to stay here for 10 years, 15 years more? Or do I want to, explore something different in the next, 3 to 5 years? I don't know, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and
mhm.
it's I guess I don't have an answer to your question, but it's definitely something that's occupied my thought. Do I want to just like travel more and do something to experience? I've done a couple of camper van trips, and I was like, maybe I want to be like a road trip camper van lifestyle person and just travel around the country, visiting national parks and um, doing something like that. Completely outside of a like I said, a commercial, capitalist venture.
Yeah, I really enjoyed writing the book. I think writing is something that comes pretty naturally to me. So for me, it's writing my next book. If and when that happens, um, will be a lot of fun to do. I have a pretty good idea, I think, of where I'm going to go and who I'm going to include. So I don't want to write the next one alone as much. I might do it through a publisher depending on how my life works, but writing and creating and connecting people has been really rewarding. I think that's not that different from Alex Schwartzman, who was like writing just because it's a great way to be a human and to learn from humans and to give to humans. And so that feels really correct to me. I do like the community organizers much more than I did when I
Mm,
was a teenager. I appreciate them much more. So like going more in that direction and being helpful to my local communities, maybe more internety one sounds good. I do want to work and not hurt myself. Like that's something that's on my bucket list. I'm like, can I work hard and to like actually like balance it well enough so that like I don't disappear, if you know what I mean,
Mhm.
or I don't put
Yeah.
myself at risk.
Yeah,
So
that
like,
is a
yeah, work's fun, man. It is really fun.
yeah, I think that that is a tricky thing to consider that I've thought about too, is the, like, don't want to disappear, but also not chasing after, like, fame or accolades at the same
Yeah.
time, and how do you say, like, "I wanna stay relevant?" And I've, like, experienced that challenge, um, eh, working in the board game space for an extended period of time, building up a different network of friends and a cohort, and then moving back into the TCG space, working at Pokemon, and feeling like, well, do all of these board game industry people where there's like some overlap, but a very different group when it comes to like professional networks. And like, am I sort of being forgotten by them because I'm not putting out board game content anymore? And working on the TCG space now and working for a giant company where you can be more of a cog in the machine and find success, but you're not going to be standing out.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like if I go to board game conventions, people are like, anybody know who I am anymore? Do they care? Do I care? Um, what does relevancy mean to me and to, the world at large? But I feel like I've kind of downgraded that from where I was, I don't know, 10 years ago when I was like, oh, like I want to be a famous published board game designer and have my name on boxes and have people come up to me like, I love your game and I want you to sign my box and stuff like that. I'm like, you know what? I don't need that. 10 years ago, me thought that sounded really appealing and cool.
Mhm.
But I realized that it, like success is always fleeting, and I more care about I don't know personal satisfaction and achievement in things than the recognition. But I think that's a choice. Some people they thrive on that more. They need that more.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fault those people who want to get those accolades.
Yeah, it's good to exist. I think in this time period, existing is good for you from like the sake of like you're yourself. You've done things. You should exist to this extent that like you're comfortable with. I think the world has changed a bit and will continue to change in a bit where like we don't all need to be Mark Rosewater and Justin Gary, but I do think it like is just healthy to be the person that you are instead of like um kind of sit back, right? That
Mhm.
I think I think it's a good time to be a person and to exist. Is it's being online has been interesting for me because I hadn't done it before, but I kind of enjoy it.
Hmm.
And I think it's healthy in ways that I didn't expect. Um,
Yeah, because you're relatively, I feel like, newer to being more engaged online than in the past. I feel like, like we were probably friends on Facebook for, a good 10, 15 years, and you
20
never
years.
posted anything. Right? Yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
however far back it goes. And you never really posted anything. Maybe with like a random post that I made. And I feel like I used to
Mhm.
be more active. And now I've kind of dialed that back. I'm like, I don't really know it how motivated I am to keep up those social online presences, but like you've moved kind of more aggressively into that space. Like, oh, I do want a presence here, but I think in support of this project and trying
Yeah.
to share out this this history, this community with the world at large. Yeah, it the priorities have changed, and so now there's more of a motivation for you. And it sounds like you're by and large enjoying that
Yeah.
aspect of it.
I
That's
think it's
good.
been really nice to see everyone. The social aspects, it's been fun and good to learn. Like it is the world that we live in for like 10 or 15 years. I've been able to just kind of enjoy my quietude and not really be on. I was never particularly addicted to any of these platforms,
Mhm.
but I also didn't use them like most people do.
Mhm.
And so, from a learning perspective, it's been really useful. From like, hey, what do I want out of these experiences? These conversations are especially useful, and each of them, like, you get different ways of thinking about the world than you would have alone. So they end up being like really. I don't get to talk to you or Scapel IS or Brian Hacker very often, but you're all incredibly smart and different. And so just that's a really fortunate thing to get to do. Seeing Lan after, all these years and whatnot. Seeing
Yeah.
everybody. I think the project's been great. Um, and I think learning how the internet works has been really useful too. I don't feel any need to be on the internet forever, but
Mhm.
it is nice to make something that's like, hey, this is something I want to see, share, and like see exist. Um, that feels important to me. I don't know. It's just you reach a point in your life, you're like, oh, what do I want to like say or communicate if you have any time at all? You could certainly see helping people more tactically, like physically, like go out and help people
Mhm.
who need it. I got to teach at my kids' school and like help with the play and do a lot of stuff like that. Um, Doing more things that connect communities feels really good to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, the more of that we have, the better we all are.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Yeah, be able to tie things back together to community and bring people together. Whatever the conceit around it is, and in this case, I think it started from, oh, I want to capture the history of the early days of Magic because uh, those are things that could be lost to time if someone doesn't document them. I think it's a really laudable effort that I appreciate you doing, and I've enjoyed greatly, and seeing these people pop up again, and knowing where they're at and some of their history, and hearing some more of the behind the scenes, like some of the stuff, maybe I did hear some of the stories, but you get new perspectives on it. uh, uh, and just getting, sort of the nostalgia of it. I don't know, I'm a fan of nostalgia by and large. I know sometimes people, I don't know, cast a little bit more, negative aspersions on it. But I think it's a pretty powerful thing that, by and large, can engender positive feelings. So I like what you're doing with all this. It's driving good feelings for me.
no, that's good. It should. I think, yeah, it's been interesting how each person has their own perspective and their own way of seeing things, and that persists to this day. And everyone's smart and interesting, but like you're not going to get to like a shared perspective a lot of the time. Like some people will warp the conversation through force of nature and force of will, unintentionally. That's just who they
Mhm.
are. And so like you can see these different personalities and how they might push and pull against each other, how they might have friction at points. Um, and also celebrate the people who like brought the community together. I do think there's something unique where it's like if we're 30 years back, but like living in this time, we're our 18 and 22-year-old selves and we're growing up now. What are we doing that would derive more value than what we got from the cohort that played Magic the Gathering together competitively, in the 90s? Like, what even
Mhm.
is that, right? To me, it's an interesting. That's the question where I'm like, oh, like, what? How would you even solve that problem? Or like,
Mhm.
what are what are we doing? Yeah, if you know what I mean. Like, there feels like something that's worth learning, whether it's like applied to education or Magic is still doing what it's doing, and I think it's great. I like a lot of what Magic's doing. Um, but why was this cohort kind of special, and like do these cohorts form now, and if so, where? I think it's an interesting
Yeah.
question, right?
Yeah, I feel like it was very much a sort of a unique artifact of the time and place in which we all kind of grew up in this.
Yeah.
That is it, and I don't think anyone was trying to replicate it, but I don't know if it really could be replicated. I
Yeah.
mean, sort of, the internet was at its infancy, so there still was a lot of, direct human interaction and connection that I think we've lost, to a certain extent. Again, thinking back to the early days of the Pro Tour and when I would qualify and folks would practice, like, it was all it had to be done in person. There wasn't any kind of, like, digital ecosystem to allow people to, hone their skills. So it meant we had to, organize, in our communities, our cohorts sit down and get together for weekends and jam through games and explore stuff that, eh, eh, I don't think exists in the same way anymore. So again, I feel like it's a unique
Yeah.
artifact of the time, like that it has led to a lot of great things. Obviously, you've been talking to a lot of
Mhm.
successful people. I remember when you started the project and put out that call, and you're like, "Who am I forgetting? Who else has had success from that time?" And it's like, "Oh, I could throw some names out there," and it's just like
Mhm.
it's a really impressive list of
Awesome.
people
Yes.
that again is kind of from a very unique and special time and place that you can't. I don't know how you capture that magic in a bottle again. Right? Like, why would you even want to try to, or just recognize, well, it was unique to that time, and let's just celebrate it.
Yeah, I think of it as like what is there to learn and try in future experiments, not for
Mm,
games really, because I think if you do play like a lot of a Magic Arena, MTG Arena, you're likely to get good at it, and like if you're playing a lot of online chess, you're likely to get good at it, and that's part of like the value of doing these things. It is nice and important, but, I think, like, the more we talk, I'm like, "Hey, combine digital and analog." Like today, Andy Wolf is at my house. Um, those are my children, and they enjoy this chat very much. They're smiling throughout. Um, but, um, yeah, I think some combination where you're doing these digital things and then getting together in real life to use these skills you've built, um, maybe that's still, like, connecting people. I don't know if poker is as strong at bonding people. It's a weird game anyway, but, like, I don't know. It's interesting. From my purview, it's like, "Hey, how do you apply, like, the good from what we had in ways that could be applied elsewhere?" Like, can you make education more competitive in a way that's collaborative too, right?
mhm.
That
Yeah.
was a really powerful aspect of our culture, right? Anyway,
Mhm.
these are things that I think about that, um, I don't think you'll go back for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that like this, all these different people from different places felt so different. Um, I don't know if that's true anymore.
Yeah, I guess, the enhanced online presence and, ubiquity and availability of information has just changed our society and our, just the ecosystems that we exist
Yeah.
in a way that, like I said, it's I don't know. I have these kinds of, deep philosophical questions around society and the internet and social media and how, is it for good or for bad? Is like I still feel like the jury
Neither.
is out. It's
Yeah,
both. Um, uh, but I feel like we all have to kind of struggle with that on a daily basis if we are going to exist in modern society. But I don't know. Maybe not. There may be ways to live more offline. I know that.
reality still
My
exists.
Hmm? Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, like um, my middle brother has very intentionally, like, not created any kind of, social media footprint. He doesn't exist on, Facebook or Twitter or, um, anything else, and he never has, even though he works, in digital marketing. Like, he has to be aware of it, but he's like, "I don't need to exist in that space to have a community. I want my interactions to be
That's
real."
true.
And yeah,
That's for real. Like that's very true. I think. Um, hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I've
guess.
also Oh, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No,
Oh,
you
I
go.
was gonna say, the other thing, and this was coming up, it's a conversation we were having last night, is the idea of, like, what is the product And increasingly, I'm learning that, like, I'm the product now, especially with social
Mhm.
media.
Yeah.
That, like, maybe it's obvious to some people, maybe, like, working in the digital space, you kind of have been aware of it more, but more often than not, if you're not sure what the product is, you are the product. Um, that I don't know, I've been kind of been grappling and wrestling with and go like, "Is that I don't think I feel great about that." Um,
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that way. Like, I don't feel like I'm a product. I feel like I'm here to try to help people or entertain people, but, like, we did this thing where we created this yellow pages where the games community could find themselves on Substack because you can't find anyone otherwise, and that's not like that's a utility to try to bring people together and help foster community, but it's not like
mhm, mm,
mine. If someone else wanted to put it on, if we as a group just wanted to move it to someone else's page, I think that could be done, right? So it's I don't know. You're building your own virtual setting with other people and like existing, but it almost feels more like you're putting up Burning Man or something like that, and you add your contribution to it. And you could be a ranger, or you could be part of a group that's doing X, Y, or Z. But if you're not providing some level of like entertainment or service, or you know helping the society, there's not really a point for you to be there.
yeah,
It doesn't. Not everyone feels salesy. In fact, yeah, I don't know. It's been an interesting ride. There's at the beginning, you're like, "This is really strange." And eventually, after, like, months of, like, exploring, you find who your people are and kinda learn about who you are, and you don't necessarily need to continue using social media after that. I think you're like,
mhm,
"Oh, this is what I value. Great." I think it is useful for that. But,
yeah,
I wouldn't say it's like you're selling yourself. Um
mhm,
So much as exploring humanity, like, yourself through these tools,
yeah,
I
yeah,
it's definitely not felt too if you're salesy, people don't like you pretty much, unless, there's a cohort of people who wanna be marketed to.
yep,
Um, I don't
yeah.
I don't think our cohort of people are included on that. You like to be marketed,
No.
Andrew?
Yeah, I know I
No.
don't enjoy that. And I wasn't meaning to play that, like, you have fallen more into that. I really like the way you've approached it and the community you build. I think when I was thinking about the ideas of, like, am I the product? It was, more for, like, social media at large. Like,
Oh, yeah.
in Facebook, I am the product. I am part of the product that the other people who are using Facebook are looking to consume. I am, part of what is creating the content. Facebook is just the platform for it. And I'm like, I don't know, how do I feel about that? But this kind of stuff, especially where you can have conversations and really have connection with people and it feels authentic. I mean, I've become a big fan of podcasts and listen to a lot of them,
Yeah.
because it just, even if I don't, actually know the host firsthand, if I feel like there's those parasocial relationships, um, I think that there's a lot of value in that, and still creating some kind of community and connection, and like a shared language or culture around something, whatever it might be. So yeah, I really like this format. I really like the way you're putting this content out. I think it's very admirable.
It's more fun than I thought it would be. Like, when we started out, it was really just random. You're like, "All right, Nate, you're in Argentina. Let's do it. Let's just see if it's fun at all. Let's learn how this stuff works." And I think it's going to constantly evolve. Like, there's going to be more tools that come online. There's going to be different paradigms that become more popular at different points.
Hmm.
And but the more like connecting to human feeling it is, I think the better it is. The thing that would be nice to get off of is consumption, right? Um, you don't want to just be viewing. You want to have take a point of view and like figure out how you can grow it, or improve how you see the world.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how people evolve. Like, so many people just read whatever gets fed to them.
Right.
Um, but maybe because that's what your brain can afford if you're working hard and have a family and et cetera. But if you do get like room to breathe, I think social media is an interesting place to explore for sure. But
Hmm.
it's when you have such minor energy and time that you get in trouble, right? You're like, you spend your remaining energy budget basically burning calories and not getting a lot back by just consuming.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna remember the specific names, of it, but I remember in previous episodes, you've talked about some of your experience working with, like, the Twitch platforms and like,
Oh, yeah.
creating those, those kinds of engagement, like, that's where my mind goes to those sort of things where,
It
like,
was fun.
you people are consuming stuff, but they can also be participatory in it in a certain way. That kind of stuff feels, similar in some ways. It's like, okay, we're not just consuming, but we are engaging and it's part of a community. I mean, I can't pretend to really uh, understand or follow Twitch and that platform and those audiences very well. Again, mostly because I have consistently worked in a physical space, and that
Yeah.
seems like it leans more into digital gaming and platforms. But yeah, the idea behind it of how do we create something where someone isn't just passively consuming it, but can be engaged, whether they're in a chat stream or basically playing along at home, uh, is, I think, something really cool. And I don't remember again the name of the companies you were involved with that explored that earlier, but it feels like they were sort of ahead of the curve on it, and you know we needed that, and maybe now we're just starting to get to it.
I don't know. I think it is people sure like to watch things, right? But at the same time, I never wanna watch anything again pretty much. And so
Mhm,
it's, um you can create so much right now, and you can co-create. If you can co-create, that makes it even better, and then if you can play or view your co-creation and then continue iterating on it, that seems even better. So, like, what I would like to see come up is more, tooling to allow people to create as communities, the experiences that that community wants. And on this platform, it's, like, quite unique in that it's so flexible and the types of things you can do. They have, like, this TV component they're going after for people who are doing what we're doing or doing news probably more so than what we're doing. Um, but they're all of the different platforms essentially could be built into theirs, and you could essentially you're not going to get TikTok out of it. I don't think they're competing on that axis, but the combination of these different media formats give you the ability to tell stories and communicate with an audience in a diverse set of ways that's like pretty cool, right? It's if you think of it
mhm.
as like creating interactive stories, creating your own mud or whatnot. I think these tools are really interesting to that end.
Oh man, now you're going way back throughout the word mud. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, that
Somebody
is.
threw me in one of their campaigns. They replied to one of my things and they were like, read this scenario. And I'm like, all right, I'll read the scenario. And then they were like, you need to actually take an action. I was like, what are you talking about? I can barely have thoughts right now. I have been talking to a lot of smart humans and they are wonderful and taxing. And so like they kept bothering me and I was like, all right, I'm going to read it. So yesterday I read it and I was like, can I just get the database of the results so that I can, you know what I mean? So that I can make a good decision. If you give me all the data, I will tell you the right answer. But they haven't responded. But that's what I
uh,
want. Just give me the information. Just give me the information. What's the best place you've lived? You like Seattle best? You have lived in good places.
yeah, so I grew up in Atlanta. I went to
Mhm.
school at University of Miami, so spent, 4 years there.
Yeah.
Back to Atlanta, and then, yeah, moved to San Diego, was there for 10 years, and then I've been in Seattle since 2019. I I really am enjoying Seattle. I
Yeah.
think
It's awesome.
it's a really, really great place to live. I really enjoyed living in San Diego too.
Mhm.
It's hard to complain about basically a beach community where the weather is always nice, but growing up on the East Coast, I liked having seasons. I think there's something about, I don't know, human nature and that need to go through cycles and change and, I don't know, renewal and rebirth and stuff, that seasons provide, that kind of tick off moments in time, that are important, that San Diego didn't really offer,
Yeah.
and I really enjoy having that again in Seattle. But then the weather is also, by and large, pretty comfortable year round. I mean, yes, it can be rainy and overcast, but it never gets too hot, never gets too cold. It doesn't have like the East Coast extremes in humidity. It's just like it's
There's
got
no
a really,
bugs.
really, really yes, right. We don't have mosquitoes or anything. It's got a just
Mhm.
a really great climate. It's beautiful and green pretty much year round. There's tons of nature to explore. There's lakes and rivers and hikes and the coastline. But it has all of sort of the modern trappings of a major metropolitan area too. We've got all the sports franchises, we've got arts, entertainment,
Congratulations.
culture. And I mean, like, I'm not, I've never been a huge NFL or Seahawks fan, and I tend to like if I want to have any loyalty, it still will go back to Atlanta more than anything else. I can remember when the Braves won um, the the series as like what 4 or 5 years ago. I was
Mhm.
I was like fully invested again. So I don't know. I guess I don't really follow sports too much, but when I do, it it'll be Atlanta that I want to root for more than anything else. So like, I'll be
Alright.
honest. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. I was like, I hope they
Good for
win. I'll
you.
be happy for
It's a
people,
great
but
use of time. You can go
yeah.
to IKEA, take care of all the
Oh my god,
busiest things that you can't do normally, right?
the roads were empty. I was out
Yeah.
uh, that weekend, and I was traveling back home right about the time when the Super Bowl starts, and I'm just like, "There's nobody on the roads here. It's kind of eerie. It's
You can go
weird
to the
how."
best restaurant that you can't normally go to. Like, this is when you can live your best life. The Super Bowl is like a decoy for you to live.
Yeah, yeah. But it was fun to see the city celebrate, and my coworkers are all very excited. So, people who've been there a lot longer are more invested. I was certainly happy for them. But yeah, I really enjoy living in Seattle. Um,
Yeah, it's the
I
best
don't
city.
Yeah, I don't know where else I would want to go, other than if it feels like, I wanna follow in the footsteps of Nate Heiss and be like, "You know what? Maybe I need to be an expat, and try living outside of the United States." So, I don't know, I I mean, I've been following Nate's travels, and I think he's gonna be back in town pretty soon, so I'm looking
Mhm,
forward to connecting with him again and hearing, more about his adventures traveling around the world, uh, and what that's been like and what he and his partner are gonna do next. Um, and, that's another thing that's on the horizon for me is like, well, maybe I wanna yeah, try an expat lifestyle and live somewhere else outside the United States for a couple of years. What would that look
mhm,
like? Or do like Justin Gary and that, digital nomad lifestyle. It turns out that like with all the tools available to us, can do most anything from anywhere nowadays.
mhm. Yeah, I'm not leaving, but I will watch you globe trot around the world.
Well, you've got a
What
family and kids and stuff to consider. I have the freedom and flexibility of, I'm single now. I don't really have any, I don't have kids or anything to sort of tie me down. So I do have that luxury that I appreciate that a lot of people don't.
Mhm,
Um, so it's nice to be afforded that freedom if I want to explore it. But for the meantime, I also can tend to be a homebody, and it's nice to have a base of operations, instead of, every 2, 3 weeks or months, you're like, "Alright, where am I gonna be now? Where am I gonna be now living out of a suitcase?"
mhm.
I don't know. It's, all things that I've, kind of been contemplating over the last couple of years.
It makes sense. I get the sense for where you're at. What book would you make everyone in the world read?
Creativity Inc.
Oh, that's a
by
good
Ed
one.
Catmull. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's really good. Do you have it back there on your bookshelf?
Probably. It would be surprising if I didn't. I'm just trying to see where it is, but, it's certainly a book that I have read and I have had. It's the kind of book that someone might have borrowed and not returned to.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I may have lent out my copy and don't currently have one, or I bought it for someone else
It's
because
like
yeah, it's really, really good. For anyone that doesn't know, Ed Catmull is one of the and they misapply it, like one of the founders and originators of Pixar, and it's a really interesting book that it talks about the early history of Pixar, so you get this, sort of retrospective on it, but then it also bounces back with the idea of candor as an applicable concept in any creative workspace, and how that's really important and valuable. and not the easiest thing to apply in
and
community. And this,
ownership, right?
hmm
And ownership such that people can speak to you with candor and you get to make the decision on what you do,
yeah.
which is really ideal. I've been in situations where people can't hear, like they're just too insecure to be able to hear. Like, I've been in situations where people are certainly far too critical to be constructive. And finding a group that like does allow for this certainly seems like the right ambition for any studio that wants to last a while.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, I got the sense from hearing your stories and other folks recounting that time, your time at Wizards, that the people went through a lot of growing pains, and people probably look back uh, and have learned a lot from those experiences, and obviously a lot of great things came out of it. But I imagine there were some challenging times throughout that as well. But like, I know we've talked about it before. We were a lot younger then, and so, yeah,
yeah.
I'm in my 50s, but you're still in your 40s, right? You're like, we're sort of in our best era.
Yeah, we actually like can look back, reflect, and like we're powerful. Like the 40s and 50s are like underrated and like how much knowledge and ability you've acquired. Your ability to take perspective is better for sure.
Yeah, I feel like most of us have gotten some out of like the ego out of our system that kind of
Most
played
people
a
have.
heavier part earlier on. But it's wait, we mature and grow. Isn't that what humans are supposed to do?
Yeah, we do. I mean, my memory of that time, like everyone's memory is different. Like for me, 5 years was like really fun, and then the last year was really just I had no energy left and was like burnt. Um, but I enjoyed it for the 5 years. And I don't have a lot. I have no friction really with anyone that I can remember. I can't imagine what that would be. But it's also been a long time. Um, it was surprising that anyone would have friction with anyone. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is interesting to hear the perspectives on the culture and who liked what. Everyone has a different take on what they like and don't. Just talking to Scap the other day, he's like, "I want an academic environment where we can ferociously debate things, but realize we're both
hmm
caring for about the greater good, and then we'll make a decision. We're friends afterwards." And some people did not enjoy that and could never enjoy that, and they found cultural designs that fit their needs better, and they're much happier, right?
hmm
Um, and so it's the real joy, one of the joys for people who are listening is just the Rashomon aspect. There
hmm
were conversations I was in where people were someone would say something and I'd be like, I know there are three people who will say something else about this, and ideally they get their chance to say it in their perspective without it being aggressive. But you can see the differences, right? You're like,
hmm
there's a reason that the legal system works as it does. Like sometimes humans can't agree on what happened, and you just have to hear the different sides and make the best decision you can. And that's the best humans ever got. That's the best process humans ever got to for making decisions about friction between people, right? And
hmm
it's not going to hold in tech times. I don't know how you keep up with the pace of at which like you can have friction between humans now. But for eons, that was how we solved problems together.
hmm Yeah, and I wanted to touch on something that you brought up about like the sort of cultural fit being really important. I think that's sort of that
Mhm.
intangible that you don't often recognize until you have hindsight. Like, it was just the cultural glue that sort of connected everyone that really made us all do our best work. I mean, I look back at the times where I feel like I was performing at my best and just felt like the the cultural fabric of the people, the organization where I was at was, so strong and cohesive that it elevated all of us. And there have been other times where it wasn't as strong, and um, you could tell that there was contention. Or I mean, I can think back at times where like, oh, well, why did I not, perform at my best there? Why did that not end up being successful? Probably just because I wasn't the right cultural fit. It's not, I know. And again, I think with the perspective of time, I've learned to recognize that more. In the moment, I was, more upset or angry or bitter. It's like, I don't understand why I'm not, like being successful in this environment when it's like probably wasn't anything in particular you or anyone else did. It was just like the culture of that group of people at that time
Mhm,
engendered a certain kind of, behavior, attitude, way of thinking that just wasn't aligned with my approach to things. Going back to like, I tend to be, again, more empathic and thoughtful in my design approach. And some people, if you're in a group of people like, well, I want to get the math right, you're like, I'm not just not going to work well within this group.
yeah.
And there's really nothing you can do to change that because, I think that's at the core of people's philosophies. So, I look back like again, I I was at Upper Deck and then at Cryptozoic and then Cryptozoic let me go. And I think it was just like I ended up not being the right cultural fit for the way that group developed.
Mhm.
And at the time it really hurt. I don't know if you've ever been fired from a job, but I've experienced it. It sucks. But again, with the perspective, I was like, well, it was probably more the culture than anything else. I don't think it was an indictment of my particular skills or abilities. So I
Yeah.
believe in those, but the culture of that collaborative group is really important. And um,
It
yeah,
didn't seem
I
like
recognize that now.
a warm and fuzzy environment. Like, from everything I've heard about that group, it was not warm and fuzzy. It sounded like there was a cutthroat owner kinda situation, and, yeah, I've actually I mean, I've heard mixed things. I'll put it that way. I don't know everything, but I don't know the owners. I don't care. I'm not looking to hurt anyone, but I did get the, like, sense that there was, like, an edginess to that culture that's, like, not really healthy for a game design group. And that might be wrong, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it served the group that was right for that culture well at the time for what they were
Mhm,
doing. But
mhm.
if you didn't align with that culture, there was just going to be friction, and ultimately, I think that's the best way for me to reflect on it now, and without trying to uh, place negativity on someone else.
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. I, I try and give everyone the benefit of the doubt, even if my personal experience with them maybe wasn't what I wanted it to end up being, because I can't read their mind. I don't know their perspective on things. I can only reflect on it from my perspective. So that's how I try and live my life.
Are they still around?
Cryptozoic, yeah,
Yeah,
they
okay.
still exist. I I don't really have any connections with anyone still there, but I know as a company they are still putting products out every now and then. Um, I
Alright.
often wonder what's sustaining them, but they must be doing something to keep the lights on.
Yeah. They had some success, right?
hmm I mean, we had
Yeah.
the World of Warcraft TCG, continue for a couple of years, and we're putting out a lot of DC Warner Brothers products. So that there was the DC deck building game line, and they moved into like other categories to be like more of a collectibles company and a a pop culture company. So like a lot of companies, they pivot and evolve and try some things and see what works and what doesn't. Um, but they're still there. When I like
Yeah, I'm
almost
looking.
15 years later.
Yeah, I don't recognize these things, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah, more DC-ish. Yeah, I don't know. D I don't recognize these games, but that's also not my life. But that's cool. They're still doing it. They're probably totally different people doing totally different
Mhm.
things now.
Yeah, I don't think
And
anybody who I knew is still there anymore. They've and even some of the
yeah,
owners have gone on to do different things. So,
and the card game space seemed like it was like pro tour player instead of like casual, which is a weird. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. But like there were a lot of more competitive oriented people in SoCal making games. And that leads
mhm.
to making games that are not loved by all, but loved by some.
Yeah, and it reminded me also of the thing about this, like, cultural fit of, like, another experience I had because I had interviewed with, Direwolf and ended up not getting the job, and I realize now it's like, yeah, that's a very analytical, group of people, very, so I was like, they weren't looking for someone with, like, an empathic touch. I was like, I was not gonna be a cultural fit for that group of people, even though they've gone on to make some amazing products and
Mhm.
are still successful. Yeah, it's interesting to reflect on these things. I really, appreciate this conversation. It gives me more opportunity to reflect on it.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it's all healthy.
I do too. I hope I didn't say anything that was wrong about Cryptozoic, which I know very little about. But I also pretty sure we didn't say anything that was going to hurt anyone, which is one of the goals of this
Yeah.
series. But I can't go back. We can't go back. Um,
Can I
all
ask you
right.
one last question?
Yeah, shoot.
Would, and I don't know if I must ask you this. Would you ever, given the opportunity, go back to Wizards?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
You don't
thought
have
at the
to
end of my
answer.
career. Oh, it's there's no like feelings about it. At the end of my career, I thought I would go back and work at Wizards and like not need to care about money very much or anything like that. So I had
Hmm.
this feeling like, oh, that's how it's going to play out. If this is that project and this is me returning to Magic for a little bit just to like kind of fulfill that, that's fine. If I ended up there for other reasons, I think that would be fine too, but it's not on my mind. It's not like, "Hey, I'm going to knock on Wizard's door and say, I want in." Um, I after recording for the next 3 weeks, I'll start thinking about what I wanna do.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't have, like, a concrete ambition to go to a specific company at this point. I am interested in understanding how I would attack the space if I were building my own business with an eye to like how I would think as a like building a lifestyle business that doesn't put me in the hospital. Um, but there's no like reason for me to have any feelings other than oh, if there's something interesting going on that I'd be helpful with, I would be interested. But it's
Yeah.
not uh, it's not something that is consciously on my mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I just think about like Worth had just recently gone back, right? Have you talked to him recently?
Yeah, Worth actually, he and I talked about the manuscript for the book I was working on. I shared it with him and I was like,
Mm.
oh, wait. I had Worth stories in there, but they don't mention his name, which doesn't say anything. I'll talk to Worth when he gets here. Like, I'll talk to Worth in a bit.
Mm.
But then I was like, oh, there are important Worth stories. And so every time I talk to someone before I actually put the book out, I would add a story for them because I'm like, oh, God, you're right. These were really like fun memories. We got to get them in. Worth would like roll dice and he would just say he won. And it just
Mm.
he always felt good about that. Um,
Mm.
Worth Wins is a classic Wizards game design anyone could use, but I'm not sure I'm not sure if anyone other than Worth ever got to win. Even when I rolled it and was like, I win, it's like, that's not the game. So, so yeah, we've been in touch a bit, just chatting and on the friend level. But he'll be on at some point. I do not know where his stories will go. His stories
Mm.
have he had his own cohort like of like hijinks that I don't fully know about. So I'm hoping we learn more about the worst set of hijinks. I had,
Cohort
you know,
at Wizards or like
at
the dead
Wizards,
guys?
yeah,
Oh, okay. I thought you were like
at
we're talking about
Wizards,
like
yeah.
the dead guy stuff also. Like, that
No,
was a strong cohort too.
yeah, I was pretty friendly with the dead guy folks. So like, I have some awareness of what happened there, though I don't know. It's certainly not complete. I think I don't see why we wouldn't talk about all of it, Mr. Wolf.
Oh, well,
Like,
I look forward to it.
yeah, I think it's a good fit for him to be back, and I think given what Wizards should be thinking about, I think he's a good fit for what they need to actually start thinking about with their brand. So,
Hmm.
very
Yeah.
supportive and happy for all parties.
Yeah, I need to reconnect with them because we're in the same area again now, so It'll be good to reconnect.
Yeah, if there are any questions you want me to ask you, let me know.
Just tell him to hit
That
me
is
up,
okay, I
and I
will
can do
tell
this.
him to hit you up. Um, sounds good.
Yeah,
Alright, well, it was nice seeing you. I don't know when I'll see you again, and that's a joke. I'll see you right after the call.
it's my pleasure.
But
Thanks for having me on.
thanks
This
for
is
coming
awesome.
over. Thanks for coming on. I'll see you in about 3 seconds. Live your life.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Bye.
Angela.
Thanks.